violent repression, and failing basic services. His regime's rule precipitated a displacement crisis affecting the whole region. The United Kingdom has long been clear that Maduro's claim to power was fraudulent. To date, Venezuela's National Electoral Council has failed to publish the full results of the July 2024 presidential elections, and independent domestic and international reports also observe significant irregularities and
I don't know what happened. It just crashed.
President, the United Kingdom wants to see a safe and peaceful transition to a legitimate government.
I don't like Mondays. Tell me why. I don't like Mondays. Tell me why. I don't like Mondays. They
and delivers a more stable, prosperous future for all Venezuelans.
The whole
Finally,
thing
President, the United Kingdom reaffirms
No, it just crashed. I don't know what happened. I'm so sorry.
And the principles
Please share if you can. I'm so sorry. The portal.
These foundations are essential for maintaining global peace, security, and the rule of law. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the United Kingdom for his statement and now give the floor to the representative of France.
I bet you Maduro hacked my system.
D'abord, vous féliciter pour
Yeah,
votre
that's
présidence
it.
du Conseil de sécurité au mois de janvier. Je voudrais également remercier Madame Rosemary DiCarlo de nous avoir transmis les éléments du secrétaire général des Nations Unies au sujet du dernier développement intervenu au Venezuela. Monsieur le Président, la France est restée solidaire du peuple vénézuélien dans la crise qu'il traverse depuis de trop nombreuses années, et en particulier depuis l'été 2024. Le 28 juillet 2024, le peuple vénézuélien a exercé son droit de vote de façon pacifique pour déterminer l'avenir de son pays. Son droit à choisir ses dirigeants
Their right to choose
lui a
their
néanmoins été
leaders
confisqué
nonetheless has been
par Nicolas
stripped
Maduro.
away from the people by Nicolas
Faut-il le
Maduro.
rappeler?
Must you recall the
Le
facts?
processus
The
électoral
electoral
avait été
process
marqué
has been
par de
marred,
nombreuses
was
irrégularités
marred by numerous
et le décompte final des
irregularities,
voix
and the final
par une
counting of
absence
votes was
flagrante
marred by
de
a
transparence.
flagrant lack of transparency.
Face à l'aspiration
In
démocratique du
light of
peuple
the democratic
vénézuélien,
aspirations
Nicolas
of the
Maduro
Venezuelan
a
people,
systématiquement
Nicolas
répondu
Maduro
par la
has
répression des
systematically
voix
responded
dissidentes,
with the
membres de
repression
l'opposition,
of dissident
de la
voices,
société civile,
of members of the opposition and of civil society, as well as with
détentions arbitraires.
numerous
Bring your knees
arbitrary
in
detentions.
C'est toujours
France
exprimé
has
avec
always
clarté
Sorry, France.
expressed
fait
itself
que
with
ces
clarity
pratiques
about the fact
étaient
that
inacceptables.
these
Sorry,
practices
everyone.
are
I don't know.
unacceptable
I think
and that
Maduro
respect
hacked my
for human
computer
rights
shit.
must be upheld.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. President,
l'opération
the
militaire qui
military
a conduit
operation
à la
which has
capture
led
de
to
Nicolas
the
Maduro
capture of Nicolas Maduro
contrevient
You
runs
naughty
counter to the
Maduro.
principle of
Différent.
peaceful dispute
Hacking my shit.
resolution
Celui
and
de non-recours à la
runs
force.
counter to the principle of non-use of
La
force.
multiplication
The
des violations de
proliferation
la
of
Charte des
violations of the
Nations
Charter
Unies
of the United
et du
Nations
droit
and the
international
violations of
par des États
international law
investis de la
by states
responsabilité de
vested
membres
with
permanents de ce
responsibility
Conseil
as permanent members of the Security
sape les
Council
bases
chips
de
away at the
l'ordre
very
international.
foundation of the international order.
Contrevenir aux principes de la Charte,
Contravening the principles
parmi
of the
lesquels les
Charter,
principes de respect
including the
de
principle of respect for
l'indépendance et de
independence
l'intégrité
and the
territoriale des
territorial
États,
integrity of states,
mine les fondements des Nations
undermines
Unies
the
et
foundation of the United
fragilise la paix
Nations and
et la sécurité
weakens
internationale.
international peace and security.
La France
France
fidèle
remains
et engagée
faithful
pour le
and
respect de
committed
la
to
Charte des
respect for
Nations
the
Unies
Charter
et
of the
du
United
principe
Nations
de
and of
règlement
the
pacifique des
principle of
différends.
peaceful dispute
Nous
resolution.
devons mettre en œuvre ces
We
principes
have an obligation to uphold
en
these
tout temps
principles at all
et en
times
tout lieu.
and in all places.
Leur respect
Respect for
est
these
indispensable.
principles is indispensable.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. President,
la France
France
réitère son attachement
wishes
au
to
respect de
reiterate
la
our commitment
volonté
to respect for
du
the
peuple
for the
vénézuélien.
will of the Venezuelan
La
people.
transition qui s'ouvre à
The
présent pour le
transition which is
Venezuela doit
currently
être pacifique,
being opened up for
démocratique
Venezuela needs to be
et
peaceful
respectueuse des choix
and
du
democratic
peuple vénézuélien,
and
qui est un peuple
carried out in a
souverain.
manner which respects the choice of the Venezuelan people,
Cette
a
transition
sovereign
doit
people.
être
This
dirigée
transition
par
must be
et
led
pour
by
les Vénézuéliens.
and for the
La France se
Venezuelans.
tient prête avec les États
France
de la
stands
région et ses
ready,
partenaires de l'Union
alongside
européenne,
states in the region
à
and
soutenir
our
le dialogue
partners at the
en
European
vue de la
Union to
restauration de la
uphold
libre
dialogue
expression
with a view to the
démocratique au
restoration of the
Venezuela
free
et à
democratic
appuyer la
expression in
stabilité
Venezuela.
régionale.
We stand ready to support regional
Ce doit
stability.
être aussi
This
le rôle
also
de ce
needs to
Conseil.
be the
Je vous
role of the
remercie.
Security Council. Thank you.
I thank the representative for
Grace,
France
Lisa, that's
for the
it.
statement.
You nailed
and now
it.
give the floor
That is
to the
the
representative
perfect
of
paragraph.
Bahrain.
سيد الرئيس أود بداية أن أهنئكم
Mr. President, I wish to take this opportunity to congratulate first and foremost the Federal Republic of Somalia on its presidency of the Security Council during this month of January. We wish you every
Where's the
success.
translator?
أود أن أعرب عن
Oh,
الشكر
wait,
إلى وفود
it's
الجزائر
in
We
English
also
on
wish
the
to take this
bottom.
opportunity to thank delegations whose mandate at the Council ended, namely Algeria, Guyana, the Republic of Korea, Sierra Leone, as well as Slovenia. We wish to thank them for their significant contributions to the attainment of the goals and the mission of the Council. I also wish to thank Madam Rosemary DiCarlo, Undersecretary General for Political and Peacebuilding Affairs, for her valuable briefing related to the latest developments which have taken place in the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, and I wish to thank other briefers as well. We appreciate the reaffirmation by His Excellency the Secretary General of the United Nations, reaffirmation of the commitment to the fundamental principles of the Charter of the United Nations, a commitment to the peaceful diplomatic resolution of disputes. The Kingdom of Bahrain supports the call of the Secretary General for all stakeholders in Venezuela to engage in inclusive dialogue which guarantees respect for international law, and this in order to ease tensions, to preserve regional stability, and to avoid any potential adverse repercussions for security and stability in the region.
كما تعرب مملكة البحرين
The Kingdom of
عن
Bahrain
دعمها للجهود الإقليمية
also
والدولية الرامية
extends its support for efforts undertaken at the regional and international
وتعزيز
levels in
المسارات
order to
الدبلوماسية
reduce tensions
بما
and to
يحقق
enhance
الأمن
diplomatic
والسلم
means
الدوليين.
in order to provide for
وتؤكد على
international
أهمية
peace and
تعزيز
security.
التعاون الدولي
The Kingdom stresses the importance of the
لدعم جميع
promotion of
الجهود
international
الإقليمية
cooperation
والدولية
in order to
لمكافحة
support
انتشار
all
الجريمة
regional and
المنظمة
international efforts,
والمخدرات
security and stability in
وما
Venezuela,
يترتب
combating
عليها
international
من تفشي
organized
الآفات
crime.
Okay, I'm sorry. I found another channel that has translation, so I'm going to switch out the feeds. Guys. Guys. And we're a little behind because I had to rant. You know, that shit happens. That shit happens. Okay, wait. So I'm going to stop it because the Bahrain guy concludes, and then it goes on to Pakistan. So let me get us set up here. This one, unfortunately, does not have closed captions. I'm sorry. There's not as much coverage of this as there is of the Maduro arraignment right now. So apologies that we don't have access to something really good. Yeah. Okay. Let me see what I can do here.
Allow me to begin by congratulating Somalia on its assumption of the presidency for this month and assuring you of my delegation's full support and cooperation. We welcome the new members joining the Council. I thank Undersecretary General Rosemary DiCarlo for reading out the remarks of the Secretary General and the valuable briefing. We also take note of the views shared by Mr. Jeffrey Sachs and Ms. Mercedes de Freitas. I welcome the participation of the permanent representative of Venezuela alongside the representatives of other countries from the region and beyond in the meeting.
Refineries are also fed
Mr.
by
President,
Alberta's heavy crude.
Pakistan views the
This
recent
is a
developments in
Canadian
Venezuela
issue as well.
with profound concern. In a world already
This is why I
beset
love
by
our
multiple
international
crises,
community.
escalating tensions
love
and
it.
instability in the
Love you
Caribbean
guys.
do not augur well for regional and international peace and security. The UN Charter enjoins us to refrain from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state. The UN Charter also binds member states to sovereign equality, non-interference in the internal affairs of others, and settlement of international disputes by peaceful means. Unilateral military action contravenes these sacrosanct principles and the doctrine of sovereign immunity. Such actions set dangerous precedents that risk eroding the foundations of the global legal framework. They also fuel instability, which, as history has shown time and again, can lead to unpredictable and uncontrollable outcomes for years to come. Mr. President, at this critical juncture, the path forward must be one of dialogue and diplomacy. Durable solutions to political differences can only be found through peaceful means, with full respect for the will of the Venezuelan people, free from any external interference. We hope that Latin American and the Caribbean region, as a zone of peace, will remain free from conflict and confrontation and continue its march towards enhanced regional cooperation and improved prosperity for the people. We urge all parties to exercise maximum restraint, de-escalate tensions, pursue peaceful coexistence, refrain from any actions that could exacerbate the volatile situation, and engage in dialogue, including by utilizing the sincere offers of mediation. The good offices of the Secretary General also always remain available for that purpose. Lastly, Mr. President, I affirm Pakistan's commitment to contributing constructively to the discharge of the Security Council's primary responsibility for addressing the threat to international peace and security by diffusing tensions, promoting Pacific settlement, and upholding respect for international law and the UN Charter. Peace and stability of Venezuela and the welfare and prosperity of its people, with full ownership, must be the overriding objective of all efforts. I thank you.
Blind hog. One only
I thank the
look at the big
representative of
ugly bill.
Pakistan
That's,
for the statement
yeah,
and
we're
now
already
give the
getting
floor
there. We're already
to
there.
the
You're absolutely
representative
right.
of Greece.
Thank you, Mr. President. At
It's
the
oligarchs,
outset,
the
I would
mobs
like to
coming in.
congratulate
Yeah,
Somalia
no, it's
for assuming
network
the
states,
presidency
bitch.
of the
That's what
Council
we're
for the
in
month
for.
of January, and I would like to welcome the newly elected members joining the Council. I would also like to thank USG DiCarlo for her briefing on behalf of the Secretary General, as well as Mr. Sachs and Ms. De Freitas
Oh my
for
God,
their
we're fucking
remarks.
sucks,
Mr.
Phoenix.
President,
It's so good to see you.
Greece
Thanks
is
for
closely
listening. I
monitoring
love you.
developments in Venezuela. We urge all actors to exercise maximum restraint and to refrain from actions that would deepen the crisis and undermine prospects for peace and stability. Greece reiterates that the Charter of the United Nations and international law, including human rights law, must always be respected. We also recall the obligation of all parties to protect civilians, especially in times of heightened tensions. Greece shares the priority of combating transnational organized crime and drug trafficking, which pose a significant security threat worldwide. We reiterate that these challenges should be addressed through sustained cooperation in full respect of international law. Mr. President, Greece firmly believes that dialogue and diplomacy are the only viable tools for a peaceful transition and a sustainable resolution of the crisis. We join the Secretary General in encouraging all actors in Venezuela to engage in inclusive and meaningful dialogue in full respect of human rights, democratic principles, and the rule of law. We have long been clear that Nicolas Maduro's and illegitimate president's claim to power lacks legitimacy. Greece has not recognized the results of the rigged elections of July 28, 2024, and has always supported initiatives aimed at achieving a democratic solution for Venezuela. We stand firmly with the people of Venezuela in their pursuit of a democratic future, and we express the hope that the recent events will lead to this effect. The voices of all Venezuelans need to be heard, and they deserve governance that reflects their will through peaceful and inclusive processes. In this spirit, we will continue to support efforts aimed at achieving a peaceful, negotiated transition that ensures the will of all Venezuelans is fully respected. Greece stands ready to support all regional and international efforts aimed at the peaceful resolution of the crisis in line with the Charter of the United Nations and international law. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Greece for this statement and now give the floor to representative of Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Before coming to the substance of our statement today, I think we need to make an institutional clarification. We note with concern that an attempt is being made to present to the Security Council a supposed representative of civil society, a person whose public career trajectory bears the hallmarks of sustained funding from foreign governments and transnational corporations. This has been the case for years, as well as participation in processes of political destabilization and the promotion of institutional breakdown in her own country. The instrumental use of this person to legitimize narratives of confrontation, justify the use of force, or minimize violations of international law does not contribute in any way to the purposes of this Council or to the strengthening of multilateralism. On the contrary, it erodes the credibility of the debates and distorts the Security Council's mandate entrusted with the maintenance of international peace and security. Mr. President, on January 3rd, 2026 is a date of profound historical significance, not only for Venezuela, but for the international system as a whole. On that day, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela was the target of an illegitimate armed attack lacking any legal justification by the government of the United States of America, which included bombing of our territory, the loss of civilian and military lives, the destruction of civilian infrastructure, essential infrastructure, and the kidnapping of the constitutional president of the Republic, Nicolas Maduro Moras, and the First Lady Cilia Flores. Venezuela comes before this Council today with a deep conviction that international peace can only be sustained if international law is respected without exception, without double standards, and without selective interpretations. The events of January 3rd constitute a flagrant violation of the UN Charter perpetrated by the US government, in particular the violation of the principle of sovereign equality of states, of the absolute prohibition of the use or threat of use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state, as enshrined in Article 2, Paragraph 4, and a violation of the duty to settle disputes by peaceful means. Similarly, these acts also seriously violate the Geneva Conventions and its protocols, as indiscriminate attacks were carried out against the civilian population and assets. International human rights law has also been violated, particularly the right to life, personal integrity, and security. Of particular seriousness is the kidnapping of the President of the Republic by the government of the United States of America, which constitutes a direct violation of an essential norm of the international legal order, namely the personal immunity of heads of state in office. This immunity is not an individual privilege. It is an institutional guarantee that protects the sovereignty of states and the stability of the international system. Its disregard not only affects Venezuela, but also sets an extremely dangerous precedent for all states represented in this chamber, regardless of their size, power, or alliances. Mr. President, General Assembly Resolution 3314 clearly defines as an act of aggression the bombing of the territory of one state by the armed forces of another state, as well as the invasion or occupation, even without formal annexation. The events we are denouncing here unequivocally fit this definition. In 2004, the International Court of Justice affirmed that occupation exists when a state exercises effective control, even without formal annexation or the continuous presence of troops. Security Council Resolution 242, for its part, emphasizes that the acquisition of territory by force is inadmissible, while General Assembly Resolution 2625 establishes that the territory of a state shall not be subject to military occupation as a result of the use of force in contravention of the UN Charter. Allowing such acts to go without an effective answer would amount to normalizing the replacement of law by might, while eroding the very foundations of the collective security system. Today, it is not only Venezuela's sovereignty that is at stake, the credibility of international law, the authority of this organization, and the validity of the principle that no state can set itself up as a judge, party, and executor of the world order are also at stake. Mr. President, we cannot ignore a central element of this US aggression. Venezuela is the victim of these attacks because of its natural resources. Our country's oil, energy, strategic resources, and geopolitical position have when force is used to control resources, impose governments, or redesign states, we are faced with a logic that harks back to the worst practices of colonialism and neocolonialism. Accepting such a logic would mean to open the door to a deeply unstable world in which countries with greater military capacities can decide by force the political and economic destinies of other states. This scenario not only threatens Venezuela, it threatens international peace and security as a whole. If the kidnapping of a head of state, the bombing of a sovereign country, and the open threat of further armed action are tolerated or downplayed, the message sends relations. Venezuela firmly believes in diplomacy, dialogue, and peaceful coexistence among nations. That has always been our historical position, and it remains so today, even in the face of an aggression of this magnitude. It is precisely that commitment to peace, the one that was violated on the 3rd of January. Therefore, Venezuela urges this Security Council to fully assume its responsibility and to act in accordance with the mandate conferred upon it by the Charter of the United Nations. In that regard, we request, A, that the government of the United States of America be demanded to fully respect the immunities of President Nicolas Maduro and First Lady Celia Flores, as well as their immediate release and safe be clearly and unequivocally condemned. Thirdly, that the principle of non-acquisition of territory or resources by force be reaffirmed. And 4, that measures aimed at de-escalation, the protection of the civilian population, and the restoration of international law be adopted. Mr. President, in spite of the seriousness of the events, Venezuela would like to inform this body and the international community that its institutions are functioning normally, that constitutional order has been preserved, and that the state exercises effective control over all of its territory. In accordance with our Constitution, Executive Vice President Delcy Rodriguez is being sworn in, continuity, stability, and internal peace. We wish to convey a message of serenity, confidence, and hope to the Venezuelan people. Venezuela is a nation that believes in peace, work, and dignity. Our commitment is to diplomacy and law, and the law is firm and unwavering. We defend our sovereignty without renouncing our values. We bet on dialogue without accepting imposition. We believe in a future of coexistence, development, and mutual respect among nations. We trust that this Security Council will rise to the historic moment facing humanity and choose the path of legality, collective responsibility, and peace. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and now give the floor to the representative of Argentina.
Buenos días.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, the government of the Argentine Republic values the decision and determination demonstrated by the President of the United States of America and by his government in the recent actions taken in Venezuela that resulted in the capture of the
I'm sorry. Yeah, my mic is actually just not I don't have everything routed just the right way, so I apologize. I'll try and be more clear when I'm speaking. Thank you.
Dictator Nicolas Maduro, leader of the Cartel of the Suns, declared a terrorist organization by Argentina in 2025, the same year in which Argentina also declared the Tren de Aragua a terrorist organization. The Argentine Republic trusts that these events represent a decisive step forward against narco-terrorism that affects the region, and at the same time open a stage that will allow the Venezuelan people to fully recover democracy, the rule of law, and respect for human rights, in accordance with the principles of international law, and put an end to the oppression exercised for years by the authoritarian regime that plunged the Venezuelan people into poverty and forced 8 million Venezuelans to have to flee their country. Mr. President, the illegitimate regime of Nicolas Maduro has not only constituted a direct threat to Venezuelan citizens through the systematic violation of human rights, the appropriation of the country's resources, and the destruction of democratic institutions, but also to the...
This is Malay's guy? Wait, this is Malay's guy? I don't understand. Falling in line? Oh, as I know. Is that true, Adriana? Is that what he's doing? Okay, I want to make sure we don't miss it. Sorry I interrupted him. I'll go back a little bit and start him over again. I apologize. But is that yeah, Malay. Right, absolutely. So what? Okay, well, this will be interesting. Sorry. Thank you. I'm a little high. I'm going to go away now. Bye.
President of the United States of America and by his government in the recent actions taken in Venezuela that resulted in the capture of the dictator Nicolas Maduro, leader of the Cartel of the Suns, declared a terrorist organization by Argentina in 2025, the same year in which Argentina also declared the Tren de Aragua a terrorist organization. The Argentine Republic trusts that these events represent a decisive step forward against narco-terrorism that affects the region, and at the same time open a stage that will allow the Venezuelan people to fully recover democracy, the rule of law, and respect for human rights, in accordance with the principles of international law, and put an end to the oppression exercised for years by the authoritarian regime that plunged the Venezuelan people into poverty and forced 8 million Venezuelans to have to flee their country. Mr. President, the illegitimate regime of Nicolas Maduro has not only constituted a direct threat to Venezuelan citizens through the systematic violation of human rights, the appropriation of the country's resources, and the destruction of democratic institutions, but also to the entire region by leading and exporting its networks of drug trafficking and organized crime. Since the inauguration of President Javier Milei, Argentina has been clear and consistent in its position regarding this situation. We have unequivocally denounced the lack of freedoms and the serious human rights violations, and we have actively contributed with the determination and responsibility to international efforts aimed at the return of democracy in Venezuela.
Is El Salvador on this panel? Is El Salvador on this committee? Because I expect them to do the same. Like, oh, Venezuela, oh, Maduro, bad, bad, bad. They did us a favor. Right? Right. Did I say the right thing, sir?
In March 2024, when others opted for inaction or ambiguity, Argentina granted diplomatic asylum to 6 Venezuelan opposition leaders, assuming an enormous challenge for our representation in Caracas. Subsequently, after denouncing the fraudulent nature of the result announced in the 28 July 2024 elections and recognizing Edmundo González Urrutia as president-elect, Argentina was expelled from Venezuela. Our embassy, where the asylum seekers remained, was subject to a permanent siege. Despite these pressures, the Argentine Republic maintained its unwavering conviction to continue denouncing the situation in Venezuela and to act in...
I kind of wish I wasn't as high as I am because this is really important stuff. But I'm like, wait, what? What did he just say? What did he just say? That Argentina, I gotta run that again. That they have a little knockdown drag out with Venezuela? Wait, I gotta hear that again. I'm sorry. Hold on just a second. I just gotta hear. Oh no, I don't want to do that. No, that's not right. No, peace. Okay.
Venezuelan citizens through the systematic violation of human rights, the appropriation of the country's resources, and the destruction of democratic institutions, but also to the entire region by leading and exporting its networks of drug trafficking and organized crime. Since the inauguration of President Javier Milei, Argentina has been clear and consistent in its position regarding this situation. We have unequivocally denounced the lack of freedoms and the serious human rights violations, and we have actively contributed with determination and responsibility to international efforts aimed at the return of democracy in Venezuela. In March 2024, when others opted for inaction or ambiguity, Argentina granted diplomatic asylum to 6 Venezuelan opposition leaders, assuming an enormous challenge for our representation in Caracas. Subsequently, after denouncing the fraudulent nature of the result announced in the 28 July 2024 elections and recognizing Edmundo González Urrutia as president-elect, Argentina was expelled from Venezuela. Our embassy, where the asylum seekers remained, was subject to a permanent siege. Despite these pressures, the Argentine Republic maintained its unwavering conviction to continue denouncing the situation in Venezuela and to act in every available international forum so that Venezuela could once again embrace freedom and democracy. Mr. President, this is not the first time that Argentina has addressed this Security Council regarding the situation in Venezuela. On the 23rd of December last, we expressed our deep concern over institutional and humanitarian deteriorating situation, noting the effects of the illegitimate regime of Nicolas Maduro transcended the domestic sphere and negatively affected regional stability, constituting a concrete threat to hemispheric security. In the same vein, President Milei stated at the Mercosur summit that Argentina welcomed the pressure from the United States aimed at freeing the Venezuelan people. Today, the international community faces a new scenario that poses a dual challenge: to support a genuine democratic transition in Venezuela and to contribute to the lasting restoration of peace and security in our region. Faced with both challenges, the Argentine Republic stands ready and willing to cooperate. We reaffirm our firm commitment to the full restoration of institutional normalcy and the rule of law in Venezuela, always safeguarding the freedom, human dignity, and prosperity of the brotherly Venezuelan people, as well as our determination to continue fighting against the scourge of narco-terrorism and those who contribute to its financing. The process that begins today requires the firm and coordinated commitment of all those countries that have accompanied the Venezuelan people in their long struggle, so that Venezuela can leave behind more than 2 decades of political, humanitarian, and social crisis and can finally be reunited with freedom, democracy.
Dave Troy has definitely been on top of this from the jump. Sarah Kendzior has been on top of it from the jump. Good old lounger Jim Stewartson was right about everything, has been on it from the jump. Gal Suburban and the beautiful and gorgeous and really funny and pretty smart members of Gal Squad, and that would be Jay Rance, Clayberg, Tina, and the greater democracy coven like Teresa Carter and Rhonda Harbison up in heaven and Jazika and all of the people who have been researching and documenting the fuck out of how where we're going and how we're getting there and who's who and who's connected to whom. So you're absolutely right. Dave Troy is nailing it. But yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. I don't know what we would have necessarily been able to do. Maybe elections and representatives could have been more articulate about it. And maybe that would have, I know we could have done a better job with media literacy. I know we could have done a better job with disinformation. And I'm not for censorship. I'm for labeling things so that people can make informed decisions about the sources that they're using to get their information. And that Steve Bannon is an opinion. I'm old enough to remember when the news had the news, and then the last 2 minutes or whatever, where the station manager came in and gave the station opinion on something, the issue of the day. And you knew that news was news and opinion was opinion. And I'm not saying that everything was perfect. I'm not saying that at all. But there was a greater distinction, certainly then, than there is now. Yeah. So, yeah, you're in the right place. You're among friends, that's for sure.
Respect for human rights and economic prosperity. Mr. President, finally, the Argentine Republic requests that the authorities responsible for administering the transition in Venezuela contribute to the immediate release of the Argentine citizen Nahuel Gallo, who has been in a situation of enforced disappearance since the 8th of December 2024, in clear violation of his human rights, and that his prompt and safe return to our country be guaranteed. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Argentina, and now give the floor to the representative of Chile.
Thank you, Mr. President. Chile would like to thank Somalia for convening this informational briefing under the item Threats to International Peace and Security. We'd also like to thank Madam Rosemary DiCarlo, USG for Political and Peacebuilding Affairs, as well as the briefings from Mr. Jeffrey Sachs and Ms. Mercedes de Freitas. President, Chile would like to express our deep concern and firm condemnation of the unilateral military action taken by the United States in the territory of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. We also reiterate consistently our firm commitment to respect for international law, sovereignty and territorial integrity of states, and the peaceful settlement of disputes, the prohibition of the threat or the use of the threat of force, and full respect for human rights. These affirmations are accepted by
just training camp for Maduro?
The majority, and they must maintain their importance in order to preserve international peace and security. We said this on the 23rd of December when we took the floor, and we reiterate this today. Chile does not recognize the Maduro regime, but serious violations of human rights being faced by Venezuela do not have a military solution. They can only be addressed through peaceful, gradual and inclusive measures that will take into account the legitimate aspirations of the Venezuelan people. Respect for international law does not allow for exceptions, including when it comes to addressing the illegitimacy of a president. Problems must always be solved within the normative framework that we have provided for ourselves as nations. The future of Venezuela must include free elections, citizen participation, and international assistance, and not with actions that could create dangerous precedents or escalate tensions in the region with serious consequences for the population. Chile, as a witness of history and based on our own experience with the loss of democracy, where there was foreign interference that caused extreme damage and pain for the Chilean people, we were able to recover our democracy through a transitional process that was carried out with the assistance of the international community, the strength of organized citizens, and through our institutions. Mr. President, Chile would like also to underscore the urgent need to continue with coordinated efforts multilaterally to address transnational organized crime. And we're also convinced that Latin America and the Caribbean must continue to be a zone of peace, because that zone of peace not only serves Latin America and the Caribbean, but the entire world. an armed conflict will have devastating humanitarian consequences in Venezuela and in the region. It will worsen the suffering of the civilian population and worsen even further the displacement, insecurity and vulnerability aspects of the situation. We reiterate that any differences must be dealt with exclusively through peaceful means in strict respect for international law, the sovereignty of states, and the prohibition of the use or the threat of the use of force. As was recently indicated by the heads of state of Brazil, Chile, Mexico, Uruguay and Spain, we express our concern with regard to any attempt to control government administration or foreign ownership of strategic assets. This would be against international law and would threaten the political, economic and social stability of the region. Mr. President, given this complex scenario, Chile welcomes the role that could be played by multilateral fora. And here, particularly, we would refer to the role of the United Nations, and particularly the role that could be played by the Secretary General and by this Council, with the consent of the parties involved to contribute to de-escalating the situation and searching for an understanding that would favour a peaceful and lasting exit to the crisis. Prudent leadership and experience of our organisation, as well as the regional organisations and mechanisms, could be very relevant to avoid a further worsening of the situation and to keep open the channels of communication. Chile reiterates its preparedness to support constructive initiatives that will point in this direction and work together with countries of the region and with the international community.
Argentina said, "Nuh-uh, Trump's great. You guys are just pussies." So they said that, and they said they've been mean to us, so we don't like them. And that's one, if you want to hear that nonsense. And who else was really good so far? Shit. Oh, Colombia. If you missed Colombia, go. I would listen to that. And then, that was the woman. Wait, who was the man? What was he from? I guess that was the Venezuela. Sorry, that was the Venezuela representative. I mean, Latvia, pretty good. But I love Colombia. You are a very big part of all of it. Oh, Teresa, I love you so much. You're such a doll. I was looking back for your comment. I missed your comment. I'm sorry. I'm a little high. I'll stop. Latvia had some shit to say about it. But Argentina was simping, so I don't know. Make your choice. Choose your weapon. Happy to take recommendations. Yes, exactly.
For stability and mutual understanding and respect for the principles that underpin this organization. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Chile for the statement and now give the floor to the representatives of Brazil.
Mr. President, we'd like to thank Somalia for convening this emergency session of the Security Council. Brazil categorically and firmly rejects the armed intervention in Venezuelan territory in flagrant violation of the Charter of the United Nations and of international law. The bombings on Venezuelan territory and the capture of its president cross an unacceptable line. These acts constitute a very serious affront to the sovereignty of Venezuela and set an extremely dangerous precedent for the entire international community. The Charter of the United Nations establishes as a pillar of the international order the prohibition of the use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state, except in the circumstances strictly provided for therein. The acceptance of actions of this nature would inexorably lead to a scenario marked by violence, disorder, and the erosion of multilateralism, to the detriment of international law and institutions. The effects of the weakening of international governance and cooperation mechanisms are already evident. The record number since the Second World War of 61 active armed conflicts, The unprecedented figure of 117 million people in situations of humanitarian disaster around the world, reflecting the increase in wars, displacement and crimes against humanity, such as the genocide in Gaza, and the global increase in military spending, which is approaching the historical mark of $2.7 trillion. As Brazil has reiterated on numerous occasions, the norms that govern coexistence among states are mandatory and universal. They do not admit exceptions based on ideological, geopolitical, political, economic, or any other kind of interests or projects. They do not admit that the exploitation of natural or economic resources justifies the use of force or the illegal change of a government. The multipolar world of the 21st century, which promotes peace and prosperity, must not be confused with spheres of influence. We cannot accept the argument that the end justifies the means. This reasoning lacks legitimacy and opens the possibility of granting the strongest the right to define what is just or unjust, what is right or wrong, and even to ignore national sovereignties, imposing the decisions to be taken by the weakest. Latin America and the Caribbean have made peace a conscious, lasting, and irreversible choice. The resort to force in our region evokes chapters of history that we believed we'd left behind us and endangers the collective effort to preserve the region as a zone of peace and cooperation, free of armed conflicts, respectful of international law and the principle of non-intervention. Armed interventions in the past have had profoundly negative and lasting consequences. Contrary to freedom and democracy, those interventions produced authoritarian regimes and serious violations of human rights, leaving as a lamentable result thousands of dead, political prisoners, tortured persons and disappeared persons whose families still today search for their loved ones, as well as justice and reparation. For the first time in South America, a profoundly alarming event has occurred. An external armed aggression with the deployment of troops and bombings in a neighboring country contiguous with Brazil, with which we share more than 2,000 kilometers of border. Mr. President, South America is a zone of peace. I insist upon that. We have upheld and will uphold with full determination peace and non-intervention in our region. Furthermore, Brazil does not believe that the solution to the situation in Venezuela lies in the creation of protectorates in the country, but rather in solutions that respect the self-determination of the Venezuelan people within the framework of its constitution. The events of January 3rd transcend the regional sphere. The attack on the sovereignty of any country, regardless of the direction of its government, affects the entire international community. This and other cases of armed intervention against the sovereignty of a country, its territorial integrity, or its institutions must be vehemently condemned. It is up to this Council to assume its responsibility and react with determination, clarity, and obedience to international law in order to prevent the law of force from prevailing over the force of law. Brazil trusts that the future of Venezuela will be built by the Venezuelan people through dialogue, without external interference, and within the framework of international law. Thank you.
For Brazil, for the statement, and now give the floor to the representative of Mexico.
Señor Presidente.
Mr. President, thank you for having convened this emergency meeting of the Council. The government of Mexico has already made its position clear with regard to our condemnation of the military aggression of January 3rd against targets in the territory of Venezuela, in clear violation of Article 2 of the Charter of the United Nations. These actions must not be allowed, as they constitute a severe blow to the Charter and to multilateralism. Mexico would like to clarify the following points. 4 points. Number 1, the prohibition of the threat or the use of force against the sovereignty, territorial integrity, or political independence of any state is the foundation of international law, regardless of the country or the government involved. 2, rhetoric pointing towards the escalation or expansion of military actions, including to other countries in our region, threatens regional stability. 3, the Security Council has the responsibility and, above all, it has the obligation to act decisively and without double standards in the face of serious violations of the Charter, and to restore international peace and security in strict adherence to the provisions of Article 24 and observing Article 27.3. 4. It is for sovereign peoples to decide their destiny and to find peaceful, democratic, and negotiated solutions to their political differences within a framework of unrestricted respect for human rights. Regime change by external actors and the application of extraterritorial measures are not only acts contrary to international law, but historically, all they've done is exacerbate conflicts and weakened the social and political fabric of nations. Mr. President, esteemed colleagues, despite the political differences among our governments, Latin America and the Caribbean has been forged as a zone of peace. Collectively, we have, for decades now, resorted to the available political and legal mechanisms available in order to peacefully settle disputes. The current violation of this fragile balance gravely endangers the political stability and the security of the region, as well as the well-being of our peoples. Those who justify these acts deny the independent history of Latin America and the Caribbean.
New York City.
Mexico, firm in its constitutional principles of foreign policy and its pacifist calling, emphatically reiterates that dialogue and negotiation are the only legitimate and effective ways to resolve existing differences. I reiterate the call of the President of Mexico for the UN to do more to resolve this and other conflicts, including through the good offices of its Secretary General. In view of the events of January 3rd, Mexico reaffirms its willingness to support any effort at facilitating dialogue, mediation, or providing assistance that promotes peace in the region. Finally, we cannot overlook the fact that this session of the Council has been held only now, when what we face is a serious situation that puts international peace and security at risk. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Mexico for his statement and now give the floor to the representative of Paraguay.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Mr. President. The delegation of Paraguay would like to thank the Presidency and the members of the Council for the opportunity to take the floor at this very important session. Paraguay has already pointed out the situation with regard to Venezuela under President Maduro and the Cartel de los Soles and the criminal organization that was formally declared as such by our national authorities, and his continued presence was a threat to the region. The exit of the leader of that terrorist organization should immediately lead to the restoration of democracy and to the rule of law in Venezuela, making it possible for the popular will expressed at the ballot box will be the foundation for reconstruction in Venezuela. We would also urgently call for the release of all political prisoners that are still in the prisons of that country, and we reiterate that a return to democratic institutions in Venezuela and the possibility for the legitimately elected authorities to resume their functions are fundamental steps for stability in the region. And finally, Paraguay reaffirms our historic commitment to the peaceful settlement of disputes, and we would observe the current events in Venezuela, and we would urge democratic means to be given priority for an ordered transition. Our commitment will continue to be to the democratic principles of the rule of law and peace in society. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
All right.
I think
that was a little. I'm gonna give that a little bit of a Susan Collins grade. Susan Collins did that a little bit for me. Like, we're not gonna go out on a limb totally and use like super strong words or anything like that because we're Paraguay. But yeah, we're not happy. But we hope it's all diplomatic, and that's really all we feel. And yeah, we're just gonna be over here, and we're pretty small, and frankly, we don't want anyone to fuck with us. So, can you guys just like get this figured out? So I'm getting the Paraguay is, it's probably smart. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know what the politics of Paraguay are, but I would imagine you'd be like, you know what? We're chill over here. We don't like this. We don't like this. And yeah, it's a little bit of Susan Collins, not too much, but not committing, right? In the non-committal sort of Susan Collins way. Maybe it's more of a Lisa Murkowski. Maybe that's Susan Collins is too strong of a response. They're not Susan Collinsing. They're more Lisa Murkowskiing, where they're just like, I don't know. This sounds a little, I don't know. No, it's not good. It's not good. But, you know, it's not good. It's not good, but we're just going to be over here, and we hope you guys figure this out, because, yeah, not good. That's what I'm getting. But not that I'm trying to, I'm not disparaging Paraguay. I'm just, I'm trying to be funny. B, I'm trying to say, I'm getting a vibe that it's kind of like, I'm going to come in smooth on Paraguay and just be like, I'm not trying to ruffle anybody's feathers. I'm not trying to have anybody have the worst day at work ever. I'm not trying to ruin any. I'm not trying to piss in the punch bowl. I'm not trying to do any of those things. Yeah. I don't like what they're doing. But you guys, please figure it out. That's what I'm getting.
Representative of Paraguay for his statement. And now give the floor to representative of Cuba.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, Cuba aligns itself with the statement to be delivered by Eritrea on behalf of the group of friends of the United Nations and Uganda on behalf of the non-aligned movement. Since September of last year, Cuba has been denouncing the hegemonic and criminal plans of the United States and its aggressive projection against Venezuela and the region. We have clearly been exposed to the serious and unpredictable consequences of the irresponsible conduct of the U.S. government for the political, social, and economic stability of Latin America and the Caribbean, and more generally, for international peace and stability. On the 23rd of December, in this very body, we set out the sequence and escalation of actions carried out by the United States with the aim of overthrowing by force the legitimate and constitutional government of Venezuela and destroying the civic military union. The United States resorted to various maneuvers to materialize its plans for domination, including vile extrajudicial executions and acts of piracy, maritime terrorism against oil tankers and their crews in international waters of the Caribbean Sea, as well as the imposition of an illegal naval blockade against Venezuela and the politically motivated designation of its legitimate government as a foreign terrorist organization. Previously, it had subjected that country to prolonged unilateral coercive measures, economic asphyxiation, smear campaigns, and attacks against some of its important institutions, exposing it to a cruel psychological war. With absolute disrespect for the Charter of the United Nations and international law, including relevant resolutions adopted by this Council and by the General Assembly, on January the 3rd, United States military forces attacked Venezuela with total brutality and treachery,
It certainly does.
and in an unacceptable and barbaric act kidnapped its legitimate president, Nicolas Maduro, and his companion, Celia Flores. Cuba condemns in the strongest terms the military aggression of the United States against Venezuela, while categorically reiterating its absolute support and solidarity with the Venezuelan people, and joins the demand that the government of the United States release the constitutional president, Nicolas Maduro Moros, and his companion, Celia Flores. In the criminal attack perpetrated by the United States, 32 Cubans lost their lives in combat actions. They were carrying out missions on behalf of the Revolutionary Armed Forces and the Ministry of the Interior at the request of counterpart bodies of that country. Our compatriots honorably fulfilled their duty and fell after fierce resistance in direct combat against the attackers or as a result of the bombings of the facilities. Through their heroic actions, they upheld the solidarity sentiments of millions of our compatriots. Mr. President, the cowardly U.S. aggression against Venezuela is a criminal act in violation of international law and the UN Charter. It constitutes a dangerous escalation of the sustained war campaign waged for years by the United States against that sister nation, which intensified since September 2025 with the aggressive naval deployment in the Caribbean Sea under mendacious pretexts and unfounded accusations without any evidence whatsoever. The U.S. military attack against Venezuela has no justification whatsoever. It does not respond to any provocation, nor does it possess legitimacy. It is based on the aberrant doctrine of peace through force and undermines the stability and peace that have characterized our Latin American and Caribbean region for years. It seeks to promote a change in the constitutional order of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, freely chosen by its people. Its ultimate objective is not the false narrative of combating drug trafficking, but control over Venezuela's land and natural resources, as has been openly and shamelessly declared by President Trump and his Secretary of State. This is an imperialist and fascist aggression with objectives of domination that seeks to revive the U.S. hegemonic ambitions over our America, anchored in the outdated Monroe Doctrine. It also seeks to intimidate and subjugate the governments of Latin America and the Caribbean. Cuba calls for an urgent reaction from the international community against this criminal attack on Venezuela, a peaceful nation that does not attack the United States or any other country. We call on all governments, parliaments, social movements, and peoples of the world to condemn the U.S. military aggression against Venezuela and to confront this act of state terrorism that threatens international peace and security and seeks to impose a new doctrine of U.S. imperialist domination in Latin America and the Caribbean and in the world. Mr. President, the recent statements about imperialist plans to steer Venezuela toward a supposed safe, appropriate, and prudent transition are totally unacceptable. In the U.S. vision of domination, this means imposing a puppet government functional to its predatory goals, particularly unrestricted access to and plundering of natural resources that, by right, belong to the Venezuelan people. Determining the destiny of Venezuela is an exclusive right of its people without external interference. If the US government, lacking any moral authority whatsoever, truly cared about the peace, freedom, and justice of Venezuelan men and women, it would not have bombed that territory with absolute disregard for the lives, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of that nation. I conclude by reaffirming our unwavering adherence to the proclamation of Latin America and the Caribbean as a zone of peace, and by calling for action with the firmness and determination that current circumstances demand, always in defense of international law and of a future of peace for all the peoples of our America and of the world. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Cuba for the statement and now give the floor to the representative of Nicaragua.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Latin America and the Caribbean is a zone of peace, declared by the community of Latin American and Caribbean states, fully respected by all governments of the world without exception, and in particular by the members of this Security Council responsible for international peace and security. This decision, these desires and aspirations of our peoples, are a noble contribution to world peace, to international law, and to the United Nations Charter. Mr. President, Nicaragua supports what was expressed by the interim president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, calling for the immediate release of the constitutional and legitimate president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro Moros, and the first fighter of the country, Celia Flores. All member states of the United Nations have the duty to respect international law, the spirit, the purposes and principles of the United Nations Charter, the right to sovereignty, self-determination, territorial integrity of states, non-interference, and peaceful coexistence. The Venezuelan people are a dignified people, the people of Bolivar, of Chavez, and of Maduro, and they have never bowed the knee. They defend their right to sovereignty and their right to peace. Nicaragua will always stand with Venezuela. Peace has been deeply damaged, and the human family, the community of nations, the peoples of the world. We urge all of you to respect the dignity of all peoples. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Paul J.
I thank
Good to see
the
you.
representative of Nicaragua for the statement
And Val, I think I
and
was
now
telling
give the
you that I
floor
love you when
to
I
the
got cut off
representative
last
of
time.
Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you, Mr. President. The delegation of Trinidad and Tobago thanks the Security Council for convening this urgent meeting following the recent developments in the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. My delegation addresses this council today as a Caribbean nation, a neighbor of Venezuela, and a long-standing advocate for peaceful coexistence and the rule of law. The government of Trinidad and Tobago has taken note of the military operations undertaken by the United States in Venezuela. We remain committed to cooperative efforts led by the United States to disrupt and dismantle networks that enable transnational crime across the Americas, whose activities have had debilitating effects on the security and stability of the region. Trinidad and Tobago remains steadfast in its support of the United States of America's initiatives that strengthen regional security, reinforce the rule of law, and safeguard the well-being of our societies, the Americas. The government of Trinidad and Tobago, while valuing its long-standing and robust partnership with the United States, remains equally committed to maintaining a constructive and respectful relationship with the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and continues to uphold peaceful relations with the people of Venezuela. The delegation of Trinidad and Tobago wishes to underscore its long-standing relationship with both the United States and Venezuela and stands ready to work collaboratively with all partners who share the aspiration of a safer, more prosperous and stable hemisphere. Mr. President, I thank you.
I thank the representative of Trinidad and Tobago and now give the floor to the representative of Spain.
Mr. President, at the outset, allow me to congratulate you on assuming the monthly presidency of the United Nations Security Council and wish you every success in the discharge of your duties. I thank you for convening this important meeting, and I also extend my thanks to the Under-Secretary General and Head of Political and Peacebuilding Affairs of the United Nations, Madame Rosemary DiCarlo. Thank her for the information provided today. Spain would like to express our profound concern about what's happened in Venezuela. And as the Secretary General of the United Nations has noted, it constitutes a very worrying precedent with implications for the region and for the world. Respect for the principles of the Charter of the United Nations, particularly the sovereignty and territorial integrity of states and the prohibition of the use or the threat of use of force, is indispensable to ensure international coexistence. Spain defends the validity of an international order that is rules-based, where it is imperative, as set out in Article 2.3 of the Charter, to pursue the peaceful settlement of disputes. We consider that these actions constitute a very troubling precedent for regional peace and security, and we recall that the natural resources of a country are part of its sovereignty. We share the view that the fight against organized crime in the region is a priority, but that fight can only be waged through international cooperation. We also share the view that it is a priority to defend human rights and fundamental freedoms in Venezuela. Spain seeks to work for peace, stability, democracy, progress, and social justice.
I'm only going to interrupt him because he's giving a beautiful speech, and I await his opinion on this. But let me just say, this is for all the Steve Lookners in the crowd and the Chud oracles that like to weigh in on why things happen. This is what I do, okay? When something comes up, like, gosh, I wonder if Venezuela was ever on the radar before, like, this point in time. Oh, and then someone in the chat said, Project 2025 mentioned Venezuela, and I'm like, oh, wow, did they? So you know what I did, hosts? I went and searched while folks were listening to the commentary or the stream. I went and researched and found the fucking page, chapter and verse in Project 2025 that speaks specifically about Venezuela. So part of media literacy and doing a good job of helping your audience understand what's happening around them, because I think that's part of our role, is to just at least bring some information forward that you may not find. Yeah, it does own research. But I also go to original sources. Right? Does our research. You know, like, I'm just trying to point out the distinction, because I know there's some people watching that have their own shows or whatever, and I've heard them wax poetic a whole fuckload of nonsense. Yeah. So, yeah, sometimes we pull from, you know, whatever type of media, but we try and find good independent journalism as much as possible and original documents as much as possible, and watching things like this where you hear directly from the countries what they've said, and it doesn't have to be regurgitated or never reported on. So that's what I do. And I'm not saying everybody has to do it. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying everyone has to do it. I'm just saying, I think people who get online and say, this is my opinion, and or, you know, that's one thing. But if you're coming on and saying these are facts, oh no, friend. then you have to put more work into it. You have to put more work. Trust me. And I'm lazy as fuck. But I put the minimum amount of work in to just bring as much sourcing as I can so that people feel like, well, if I don't trust what Lolo says or whatever, which is fine, I'll go find out for myself. And I'll start with, I can look at her source from the Miami Herald or whatever. And then I'll go find other things that either confirm or deny. That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking you to believe me. Well, I mean, it'd be nice, but I want people who understand. I don't mind a challenge, but please understand some of the details. Just bother to understand a few of the details because they do matter. Otherwise, it's like Dunning-Kruger, where you think you know how to do brain surgery because you watched a couple of episodes of Grey's Anatomy. You're too dumb to know what you don't know. And you think everything's easy. And it's not. Jobs are hard. That's right. Things are complicated. There's lots of players. They all have motivations. They all have reasons for doing what they do. There's a whole thing. And it's fine. If you don't want to do that, just go on and say, you know what? This is what I think. This is a rumor. This is this. Just label it. Just fucking label it. Otherwise, just back your shit up a little bit. I do a terrible job. You guys, I would love to be so much more like, here's all your sources. Here's all your list of citations. Although we do put a list of citations in the fucking description of every video after. Well, it's me. I put a description and a citation list of everything we covered in a show in the description, because maybe at some point, I don't know, someone might either stumble upon it and go, oh, I really wanted to learn about Venezuela. And that was the time of history. You know what I'm saying? Just like it is not, this is more work than just turn on your phone. Yeah, the royal we, right. This is just, I do expect people who come out and say, I want to tell you something and I'm going to tell you it as if it's fact. I expect you to back that shit up. Because you're doing a disservice to people by just spouting disinformation. That's why, Steve Lookner, you're a fucking idiot when you just sit there and read comments like, Bill Clinton organized Jeffrey Epstein's, bar mitzvah. I mean, whatever. Like, you just can't just sit there and say shit and not say, well, actually, viewer, XYZ. It doesn't take long to correct disinformation in the moment. But if you're stating something unironically and just putting it out there, you have a range of viewers with different motivations, different experiences, different media literacy, different everything. So you have to kind of be very clear, at least with facts. I'm not asking him to debunk everything. I'm not asking that. I'm only asking that people take time when it is an egregious lie to set the record straight. That's all. That's all I'm asking. And I'm also asking myself. I don't necessarily do it all the time. I'm sure I don't catch shit, or I, definitely pass on a rumor. I love to gossip about politics as much as the next person, or not. So, I don't know. That's all I'm going to say. That's my other rant. Oh, that's the other thing. I think I should do rants by topic and just put them online. Like here, Lolo's rant about education. Here's Lolo's rant about foreign aid. Here's Lolo's rant about universal health care. Maybe I should just do that and record them and put them up, and then I could just hit play and go, okay, well, here, folks. And then everyone could go, oh, I know this is 20 minutes. I'm going to tune out. Because I've already heard it. But I could be more thoughtful about my rants, which, I wouldn't have as many mind lapses. Synapse lapses, sin lapses. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to continue playing. I really truly am going to shut up. I feel I got some good rants out this morning. So hold on.
And that cannot be imposed by force. It can only come through broad dialogue among Venezuelans, leading to a peaceful and democratic Venezuelan solution. It must be the voice of the Venezuelan people that determines the destiny of Venezuela. Spain did not recognize the results of the most recent elections held in Venezuela in July 2024 and has been unequivocal in condemning any violations and threats to human rights. We have provided protection to opposition leaders who have been persecuted and have expressed firm rejection of any undemocratic conduct and abuses against the citizenry, but such condemnation can only be exercised with full respect for international law. Spain will work to unite Venezuelans, men and women, and is committed to dialogue and peace because force never brings more democracy. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Spain, and I now give the floor to the representative of South Africa.
Thank you, Mr. President. We wish to congratulate the Federal Republic of Somalia for assuming the rotating presidency of the United Nations Security Council for the month of January, and wish you and your delegation all the best in the execution of your responsibilities. We also wish to thank you for convening this debate and affording all UN member states to participate because the situation in Venezuela concerns all UN member states, given its implications for the credibility of the UN Charter and international law. Mr. President, integral to the maintenance of international peace and security since the establishment of the United Nations is the understanding that no nation can claim to be legally or morally superior to another. We are all nations born out of different histories and contexts, ascribing to the common values and principles enshrined in the Charter of the United Nations. Chief amongst these principles is the sovereign equality of all its members. By signing the Charter, we have all committed to settle our international disputes by peaceful means in such a manner that international peace, security, and justice are not endangered. We have also committed to refrain in our foreign relations from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state, or in any other manner inconsistent with the purposes and principles of the United Nations. The International Court of Justice has also previously affirmed that international law prohibits the use of force and intervention in another state's affairs. Due to the shortcomings of its predecessor, the League of Nations, the UN was created to prevent countries from resorting to conflict, to settle disputes and prohibit the use of force unless it is done in a legally prescribed manner. In doing so, the UN has played a pivotal role in ensuring peaceful existence amongst nations, including in ending the colonial subjugation by powerful countries over others, underpinned by respect for the equal rights of nations, large and small, and respect for the principle of equal rights and self-determination of peoples. Joining the organization and committing to its principles afforded protection to many of us with the supposed assurance that no longer would one nation be seen as inferior to another. Unfortunately, when countries ignore the Charter and act contrary to its central premise, it undermines the credibility of the entire system in which we all undertake our international relations. The stability of the international system depends not only on the respect but on the consistent application of these established legal norms. We all benefit from a rules-based international order based on international law. When we break those norms, we invite anarchy and an environment where might makes right, ignoring the complexity of interrelations and interdependence in our modern world. Mr. President, the unilateral military strikes carried out by the United States of America against Venezuela and the abduction of President Nicolas Maduro and his spouse from Venezuelan territory for transfer to the United States wantonly violates the sovereignty and territorial integrity and independence of Venezuela. These actions are also in stark contrast to our established legal norms, reinforcing the belief that might is right and undermining diplomacy. History has repeatedly demonstrated that military invasions against sovereign states yield only instability and deepen crises. Unlawful unilateral force of this nature undermines the stability of the international order and the principle of equality among nations. Such use of force also undermines the institutional infrastructure established to regulate relations among nations. We have seen examples of these in Libya, Iraq, and countless cases in Africa where foreign interventions and interference create security crises and undermine national governance institutions cultivated through nuanced and complex national contexts. South Africa stresses that allegations of internal governance challenges, human rights concerns, or acts of criminality by a head of state cannot justify a breach of the Charter's prohibition on the use of force, particularly Article 2.4 of the Charter. The peaceful resolution of disputes and internal matters must proceed in accordance with international law and through multilateral mechanisms. Additionally, under international law, a state has exclusive jurisdiction over persons and conduct within its own territory. Any enforcement of domestic law, including arrest by one state within the territory of another state without the state's consent, is an unlawful violation of sovereignty. There are recourse mechanisms at the disposal of states to implement international law. This includes taking action by bringing a case before the International Court of Justice or seeking action from the Security Council. We note the statement issued by a group of concerned countries, mainly those in the Latin American region, most affected by the developments in Venezuela, which reiterates that the situation in Venezuela must be resolved exclusively through peaceful means, through dialogue, negotiation, and respect for the will of the Venezuelan people in all its expressions, without external interference and in accordance with international law. Mr. President, each one of our countries, including our peoples, that are members of this organization and that are bound to its charters, have the right to determine our own democratic and political path. This inherent charter-given right to self-determination cannot and should not be abrogated. If we do not stand up for the sovereign rights of any nations or states when they are undermined and wantonly violated, then which one of us are safe or are guaranteed protection by the principles of the Charter and international law? Failure to act decisively against such violations is a tantamount to inviting anarchy and normalizing the use of force and military might as the main form of discourse in international politics. This would be a regression into a world preceding the United Nations, a world that gave us two brutal world wars, and an international system prone to severe structural instability and lawlessness. We cannot afford to proceed into a complex future without the stability and protection afforded by international law. I thank you.
Helen Mirren, set design.
I thank the representative of South Africa for his statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Eritrea.
Thank you, Mr. President. Allow me at the onset to congratulate Your Excellency and the government of the Federal Republic of Somalia on assuming the presidency of the Security Council for the month of January. We also extend our congratulations to Bahrain, Colombia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Liberia, and Latvia on their election to the Security Council. As this is the first Security Council meeting of the year, allow me to pay tribute to the outgoing members, Algeria, Guyana, the Republic of Korea, Sierra Leone, and Slovenia, for their dedicated service and diligent work throughout their tenure of the Council. I read this statement on behalf of the Group of Friends in Defense of the United Nations Charter. The Group of Friends in Defense of the Charter of the United Nations condemns the most unequivocal and categoric manner the act of aggression perpetrated on 3rd January 2026 against the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela by special forces of the United States of America, which included armed attacks against civilian and military objects in the capital city of Caracas, as well as in various other cities of the Venezuelan territory, and the illegal abduction of the President and First Lady of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, His Excellency Mr. Nicolas Maduro Moros, and Her Excellency Mrs. Celia Flores de Maduro. The member states of the Group of Friends in Defense of the Charter of the United Nations expressed their serious concern at the impact of these series of armed attacks, particularly on civilians and their human rights to life, which have included military assaults with U.S. Special Forces, while emphasizing that such acts constitute a clear breach of international law and of each and every principle governing international relations, including those foreseen in the Charter of the United Nations. The Group of Friends of the Charter of the United Nations reiterates its firm support to the constitutional government of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela under the leadership of President Nicolas Maduro Moros, and emphasizes the importance of ensuring strict respect for the inviolability of the immunities accorded to heads of states and government under international law, while renewing its unwavering solidarity with the Venezuelan people in their ongoing struggle for defending their homeland, including through the actions it may take within the framework of international law to exercise its inalienable right to self-defense.
I'm going to stop her right there just because I'm going to let you know that the Bolivarian countries are 6 Hispanic American countries. This is from Wikipedia, so it's not, it's that source. But it's Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador, Panama, Peru, and Venezuela. That's what are considered Bolivarian countries because of being united through Bolivar back in the day. History. I'll find a more than a Wikipedia source, but yes. Thank you. I didn't know the names of them. I'm sorry. Yeah, I need to improve my media literacy.
The member states of the Group of Friends in Defense of the Charter of the United Nations demand for the immediate cessation of all hostilities against the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, for the full respect for the sovereignty, territorial integrity, political independence, and inalienable right to self-determination of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, for the immediate return of President Nicolas Maduro and First Lady Celia Flores de Maduro to the Venezuelan national territory, and for those responsible for these acts of aggression to be held accountable. The Group of Friends of the Charter of the United Nations firmly reject the remarks delivered by the President of the United States of America during the afternoon of 3rd January 2026, in which he not only threatened with additional airstrikes against the Venezuelan territory, but also claimed to resolve to occupy and govern the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, and to exploit the natural resources and administer the wealth of that sisterly nation in what can only be described as the confession of a clear plan of annexation that foresees, among others, the complete obliteration of the inalienable rights of the Venezuelan people, as well as the fundamental rights of the Venezuelan state as a whole. The member states of the Group of Friends of the Defense of the Charter of the United Nations call on all relevant international bodies, including the Security Council and the General Assembly of the United Nations, to swiftly mobilize in order to uphold the purposes and principles enshrined in the Charter of the United Nations, and to urgently take appropriate measures to avoid further escalation of the situation on the ground, particularly additional acts of aggression against the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, and preserve both regional and international peace and security. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Eritrea for her statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Islamic Republic of Iran.
Thank you. In the name of God, the Compassionate and Merciful, thank you, Mr. President, for convening this emergency and important meeting. We acknowledge the presence of the Undersecretary General, Mr. Lolo, at this meeting and extend our appreciation to Professor Jeffrey Sachs for his informative and insightful briefing. At the outset, I would like to extend my warm congratulations to Somalia on its assumption of the presidency of the Security Council for this month. I also wish to warmly congratulate the newly elected members of the Council, Bahrain, Colombia, Republic of Congo, Latvia, and Liberia on their election. Mr. President, the Islamic Republic of Iran would like to associate itself with the statement delivered by Eritrea on behalf of the Group of Friends in Defense of the Charter of the United Nations, and wishes to make the following remarks in its national capacity. First, the Islamic Republic of Iran condemns in the strongest possible terms the military attack carried out by the United States of America against the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. This illegal act constitutes state terrorism a manifest violation of Charter of the United Nations, particularly Article 2, Section 4 and Section 7, and peremptory norms of the international law and amounts to an internationally wrongful act and a full-fledged act of aggression. Such military aggression against an independent member state of the United Nations establishes a serious breach of regional and international peace and security with far-reaching consequences for the international system as a whole. Second, the abduction of democratically elected president and the First Lady of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela by the United States constitute a flagrant violation of customary international law, including the principles of the inviolability of the immunities accorded to the heads of a state and government under international law, and represent a grave assault on the sovereign equality of states. The Islamic Republic of Iran recalls Venezuela's inherent right to self-defense and underscores the legal responsibility of the United Nations, in particular the Security Council, to take immediate measures to halt this unlawful aggression and to ensure accountability for all those responsible. Iran also affirms its full support for the people and legitimately elected government of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Third, the United States is openly seeking to substitute its domestic law for international law and the Charter of the United Nations. This represents a serious warning to the international community and to all member states. Such unlawful conduct strikes at the very foundations of the Charter-based international legal order and establishes a dangerous precedent that must be categorically and unequivocally rejected. The so-called declared U.S. policy of peace through strength prescribed the law of the jungle and the rule of force instead of rule of law, and if tolerated and normalized, would render the collective security system established by the Charter ineffective and devoid of purpose. Fourth, the continued inaction and paralysis of the Security Council in the face of the explicit threat and act of aggression by the United States have fostered a dangerous climate of impunity. It has emboldened the United States to persist in unlawful conduct that poses a grave threat to regional and international peace and security. In recent days, the President of the United States had repeatedly issued public threat of the use of force against the Islamic Republic of Iran in manifest violation of Article 2 of the Charter of the United Nations. At the same time, the United States is shedding crocodile tears for the Iranian people and hypocritically claims to support them while maintaining a well-documented record of intervention, the use of force, and the imposition of unlawful unilateral coercive measures against Iran. This includes its direct political, military, and operational support and involvement for Israeli regime unlawful joint war of aggression against Iran between 13 and 24 June 2025, which resulted in loss of civilian life, attacks on civilian infrastructure, and serious violations of fundamental human rights of the Iranian people. Iran reaffirms its inherent right to defend its sovereignty, territorial integrity, and national security, and to protect its people against any foreign interference. The United States of America will bear full responsibility for consequences arising from its unlawful threats and any ensuing escalation. Finally, we unequivocally reject the baseless allegation and unwarranted reference made to Iran by the representative of the United States at this meeting. The facts on the ground are clear, speak loudly for themselves, and cannot be concealed by political rhetoric or manufactured narrative. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Islamic Republic of Iran and now give the floor to the representative of Uganda.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the honor to deliver this statement on behalf of the Non-Aligned Movement, NAM, representing 121 member states united by the shared principle of respect for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all nations. The Coordinating Bureau of the Non-Aligned Movement, NAM, categorically condemns the act of aggression perpetuated by the United States of America against the Bolivian Republic of Venezuela since the early hours of 3rd January 2026, which included armed attacks against civilian and military locations in the capital city of Caracas, as well as in various other cities of the Venezuelan territory. The Coordinating Bureau of the Non-Aligned Movement notes that attacks in question, which blatantly violate the purposes and the principles enshrined in the Charter of the United Nations, as well as the norms of the international law, constitute an act of war against the Bolivian Republic of Venezuela that undermines both regional and international peace, security, and stability, while also threatening the very right to life of the Venezuelan people. Excuse me. The Coordinating Bureau of the Non-Aligned Movement demands the immediate cessation of all hostilities against the Bolivian Republic of Venezuela, the full respect of the sovereignty, territorial integrity, political independence, and inalienable rights to the self-determination of Bolivian Republic of Venezuela, and that those responsible for those ongoing acts of aggression to be held accountable. The Coordinating Bureau of the Non-Aligned Movement reaffirms the inviolability of the immunities accorded to the heads of states and government under international law, which constitute a fundamental pillar of sovereign equality, peace, coexistence, and stable international relations. These immunities, firmly rooted in customary international law and consistent with the purposes and principles of the Charter of the United Nations, must be respected universally without discrimination, and any actions or measures that undermine or selectively disregard them risk eroding multilateralism, destabilizing international relations, and weakening the international legal order. Excuse me. Mr. President, the Coordinating Bureau of the Non-Aligned Movement reiterates its full solidarity with the people and government of the Bolivian Republic of Venezuela at this critical time, and insists that military solutions are not viable avenues for addressing any issues that may be of concern between members of the international community. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Uganda for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Cuba, who has asked for the floor to make a further statement.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, my delegation feels it must take the floor again to respond to the unfounded accusations formulated by the United States against Cuba. We are indignant that those that have led unilateral aggressions and systematic violations of international law pretend to judge other sovereign states with a totally immoral and irresponsible attitude lacking respect. We fundamentally reject the accusations that Cuba has intelligence assets in Venezuela. These kinds of statements lack any factual base and are a clear attempt to take the eyes of the world off the criminal acts of the United States in the region. Cuba strictly respects the sovereignty, independence, and inalienable right of the Venezuelan people to decide their own destiny, as established by the United Nations Charter. Cooperation between both countries is in multiple spheres, has legitimate bases, and is based on bilateral agreements signed by both parties. As has been declared by the revolutionary government, the 32 combatants that fell in terrorist acts perpetrated by the United States were in missions of the revolutionary forces at the request of Venezuela. Those patriots were heroic in their action, showing solidarity with millions of attempt to suggest that Cuba is involved in this way in Venezuela, we categorically reject that. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Cuba for the statement. There's no more names inscribed to the list of speakers. The meeting is adjourned.
That was kid sabotage. I think someone threw their oatmeal. All right. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to turn myself down a little bit. And I'm going to mute that. Oops, I muted the wrong thing. Oh, okay, fine. Whatevs. Hold on. Okay. Sorry, I kept cutting into that, but that was so cute. That was a cute, and I feel very badly for that poor. This was really a roundtable chat. Yeah, there was the Security Council is there to air the grievances, I believe. I don't think Jack Smith is testifying again this week. We will watch the rest of his testimony, but that's the problem with this fucking regime is that there's so many things that are important to pay attention to that you end up not being able to pay attention to to all of them at once. And so we can never complete anything. We just have to keep catching up with all the damage that's being done. All right, we have got a lot. Please don't go anywhere, please. Because I've got some things, and I don't know. Is anybody? I haven't checked the current live. I know Maduro and his wife pled not guilty, and also, yeah, it's just too many, everything everywhere all at once. What was I going to say? So, okay, I'm just looking to see. I'm on Truth Social, so forgive me. I'm just looking at the dick. You're such a dick. You're such a dick. Okay, I don't know what he said. He did say something about Colombia is next, and Cuba looks ready to fall. That's what he said. And it was yesterday on the Plane Gaggle, which I really wanted to play the Plane Gaggle. Oh my God, there's too much to do. I have to be live all day. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. Some are calling in on Zoom. A couple of the witnesses, I guess, that kind of thing. Which I was also trying to look her up from Transparency Venezuela. I have to find the name of her organization because I don't know if she's she was, I think someone was claiming that she's not really a good witness, if you will. For democracy, I guess, to put it mildly. Okay, so let me entertain you. Okay. Oh gosh, so much. There's so much to do. There's so much, baby. Wait a minute. Where am I? That's not. Where do I want to be? Oh, maybe there? No, not there. Ooh, baby, gotta run for shelter, gotta run for shade. Let me get rid of this one so it's not confusing. All right, so this is, unfortunately, this is True Social. But, sometimes I just go to the source. And, I just do. But I was thinking maybe he would be truthing something about Venezuela, but no, he's not. Oh my God, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with truth? Home. Okay, home. Bingo bongo. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. Hold on. Oh, that's the wrong one. Hold on. Don't go away. Okay, wait, what? Wait, what? Oh, is that it?
Hi, everybody. Hi, GA from CA. It's a long time no see. How you doing? It's good to see you. Okay, everybody. I know there's a lot of important things happening right now. I know that. Okay, I know. Yeah. Pete Pig's Breath, who got a cushy job as the head of the fucking Defense Department, War Department, whatever, dude. Should be called the Vodka Department. It should be called the Cirrhosis Department. It should be called Detox Department. Anyways, so, of course, Pig's breath, because he's got bigger tits than I do, and shoulders and whatever, and more tattoos, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what he was doing in his office for so long. But anyway, Pig's breath gets a cushy job, and he can fuck up like multiple times, right? I'm talking like multiple times. The guy's drunk every single fucking day, right? Okay? Are you with me? And then this guy, he like fucking puts his shit all over the internet. You know what I'm saying? He's got Nazi tattoos, and apparently that's not a problem anymore. You know, all of a sudden that's okay. Yeah, great. And then, don't call me right now. Anyway, so then, you know, all of a sudden, everything's fine, whatever, Nazis, cool. And so then, you know, and then he can come drunk to work. That's 2. And number 3, again, he puts his shit on the internet. Okay? So who's playing favorites now? Okay? I'm mad about it. I'm super, super duper mad about it. And so I ended up, like, making a deal so I could just get out of it. Because, frankly, also, wait a minute. I'm not done. Okay. While I've got you. Okay. Yeah, So, so, Kash Patel? You want to talk about Kash Patel? Do you want to talk about Kash Patel? Do you want to talk to me about Kash Patel? And Pamela Joe? Bondage? I didn't say that. Anyway, Kash Patel, useless. Always, like, sending his girlfriend to fancy places so that maybe she'll touch him. I don't know. That's the rumor. I don't know. I just heard a rumor. I don't know anymore. But anyway, Kash Patel, useless as tits on a bull. Also, oh my God, how many people has he misidentified? Okay, I have a list all of a sudden. Anyway, he misidentified like a bazillion people. Right? Like, and how does he not get fired? And I didn't say I got fired. I mean, you might say I was forced to resign because I'm really expensive and just frankly useless. And I keep expressing doubts about the FBI. And I can't, you know, I bought into that Fed-surrection bullshit. And I fed into it so much. It grew in me like a parasite, and now it's all, I believe that. And so now, even when Kash says, no, bingo bongo, no, the Fed-surrection was a story we made up when we were planning it with Mike Flynn and Patrick Byrne and blah, 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 and Roger Stone. No, bingo bongo, no, calm down. It wasn't a Fed-surrection. That was a story we told. Yeah, no. And that just blew a little bingo bongo's last motherfucking socket. And all of a sudden, poof, we get this. Good to see you all. I missed you. Thanks for everything while we worked on cleaning up. Working in the administration was the experience of a lifetime. I love those planes. I'll have some announcements coming up, but I'm taking a couple of days to spin with the old Flim family. A couple of things. Wait, while I have your attention. Thank you for your interest in the show and its return date. Are those bots sending emails again? God damn it. Anyway. Okay, the Trump team is not getting around. Oh my shitting God. I can't with this anymore. I It's an otherworldly experience from the other side. Oh, bitch, it's kind of otherworldly on this side too, motherfucker. Ugh. He's determined and focused. That's what we call it. Which means he's feckless and out of it. And having been around quite a few presidents, this one, well, here's what I can say about him. He broke the mold. Oh, bingo bongo. Oh, man. I know. I cracked myself up.
I'm sorry, Max. I know you can't understand anything. It's part of the experience. Yeah, bingo bongo. What a great. Who was it? Who coined that within the Discord? Like, who brought that to the Discord? He probably broke his gold color toilet seat. What did he steal from the White? This is what I want to know. Okay, here's the question of the day. What did Bingo Bongo steal from government property? That's what I want to know. And no, his salary isn't a valid answer. I want physical objects only. What did Bingo Bongo take with him in his plant box when he left the office? Oh, Bingo Bongo, you are an endless source of entertainment. I've been calling him that name since Sandy Hook or just at Pep. Pep definitely brought it up. Okay, let me tell you. Can I just show you a couple things? And I put this in the chat earlier, and I'll put these links in the description. But this is Project 2025. This is what you're looking at. I get it. It's not big. I'm so sorry. Let me just move it actually over here and see if I can make it happen. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay. All right. Pretty good. Not terrible. Okay. This is Project 2025. This is the document written by the Heritage Foundation by a number of authors. I can't remember, Felix somebody, not Sater, but Felix somebody else or someone, or Kieran or someone wrote this part about the Department of State. And in Project 2025, which of course we realize now has informed so much of what Russ Vogt and other people, Doggy and all that stuff is related to what the marching orders were in this document created by the donor class, people like, people like, oh goddamn, the Heritage Foundation, the Council for National Policy, the Koch brothers, Peter Thiel, Elon, all of them have an interest in the outcomes that are described in this document. And you can see these things, much like I described the Mar-a-Lago Accord, you can see many of the things we're experiencing right now are genesis or at least spoken for perhaps one of the first times, maybe in some, in very clear language about what the intentions are. What do you wanna do for me? Yeah. So this is actually page 181, technically, of the Project 2025 Mandate for Leadership document, which is 912 pages of absolute fascism from stem to stern, baby. And this is page 181, but it's also on the PDF, it's page 213. And I'll include that in the description so that if you do happen to go back to it, you can find it as easily as possible. Thank you, Pepper, for bringing that up, because that's really the best. Call me sophomoric, but every time the baby voice swears, I roll. It's a good baby voice. It really is. Okay, but here's what it says in Project 2025. The Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Once a model of democracy and a true U.S. ally, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela has all but collapsed under the communist regimes of the late Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro. In the 24 years since Hugo Chavez was first elected Venetian Venezuelan president in 1999, the country has violently cracked down on pro-democracy citizens and organizations. Oh my gosh, who's that sound like? Shattered its once oil-rich economy. Oh, this is 2 out of 3. Empowered domestic criminal cartels. Do billionaires count? And help fuel a hemispheric refugee crisis. Yep, can confirm. Check. Fuck. Venezuela has swung from being one of the most prosperous, if not the most prosperous country in South America to being one of the poorest. Its communist leadership has also drawn closer to some of the United States' greatest international foes, including the People's Republic of China and Iran, which have long sought a foothold in the Americas. Indeed, Venezuela serves as a reminder of just how fragile democratic institutions that are not maintained can be. Girl. Girl, have you met you? I'm just saying. I need my picture of Kevin Roberts. I got to get my pictures off my old computer. God. Anyway, let's see. To contain Venezuela's communism and aid international partners, the next administration, wink wink, must take important steps to put Venezuela's communist abusers on notice while making strides. Oh, is this what they meant? While making strides to help the Venezuelan people. Help, by dropping bombs on them. Okay. That's weird help. That's a weird flex. The next administration, wink, must work to unite the hemisphere. That's the part I want you to pay attention to. Unite the hemisphere against this significant but underestimated threat in the southern hemisphere. Isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting the language that's used sometimes? I don't know. I find it interesting. Language fascinates me. Anyway, again, I'll note that. And then I did some things. Oh yeah, in Honduras is Prospera, which is the Peter Thiel-backed network state. Which basically, where's my network state thing? Where's my network? It's my name. Oh yeah, I pulled this up too. Because this is from, when is this from? What was I pulling this up for? This is from January 5th. Okay. Okay, no, so don't get distracted. Don't get distracted. Don't get distracted. Don't get distracted. Oh, this is what I do have a couple of examples of Venezuelan forces surround embassy. This was from 2024 when he was discussing what Argentina, Venezuela were beefing over. They're beefing. This is one I wanted to make sure, and I'll link it again. This is the Miami Herald. Doesn't seem to be on. It's a gift article, so it's not. You can do it. Anyway, Venezuela military says U.S. killed Maduro's guards in cold blood before snatching him. So there was about 82 people, including 32 Cubans, who I understand from this morning's reporting were killed, assassinated, and that's our own words. Well, actually, Venezuelan military said that. So they were killed during this, little come with us bullshit. So anyway, I will link that. I don't want to get too drawn into the article, but because it's good, and I don't want to do that. That's us, and we're weird. Okay, so this is Pete Pig's Breath stripping Mark Kelly of his what is he? Was he a lieutenant? I can't recall what Mark Kelly's rank was when he retired. But Mark Kelly was not only, in the military, but he was also an astronaut, which, is not special. But I mean, he's a pretty smart guy and pretty brave. And also married to Gabby Gifford, who was shot in the face by a MAGA during a campaign stop in Arizona. And he stayed by her side and really became a champion for gun laws and gun control. And so, I'm sure I don't agree with him on everything. He's kind of centrist, he's kind of that. And that's fine. But he's generally a good guy, and he fights for the right things and speaks out when he should. And he spoke out during the summertime, or I guess, about reminding alongside other veterans he spoke out and said, military, understand that you do not have to obey a legal order. And guess what? That's not against the law. That's not sedition. It's not treason. Nothing of this is going to stick. I get that the Trump administration is mad that Mark Kelly called them out on their bullshit, but I'm also grateful to him because it's important that enlisted members who might see that information understand that they do have a process, a legally sanctioned process for how to disobey an order that they feel is illegal, and they can question it and they can get resolution on it. But it is actually in the, I don't know where it is in the oath, so forgive me, but they must not comply with illegal orders. It's like that's part of that code. So there's a process. There's an acknowledgement that exists in the U.S. military. And it's okay to remind people of that. It's okay to remind people of their rights when ICE tries to illegally kidnap them from the Home Depot parking lot. It's okay to tell people what their rights are. That's not treason. That's America. Benny Johnson. Benny Johnson is a verified Russian asset through the Tenet case. We learned through the actual indictment of Russians charged with manipulating U.S. media personalities, Tim Pool, etc. Benny Johnson was right up there as a paid fucking operative of the Kremlin, of the KGB. So everybody can just fuck off with Benny Johnson being like whatever. Maduro. Yeah, they all said that because of Sidney Powell, Max. Because Sidney Powell was like one of the origin villains of the Hugo Chavez had all the machines and he just fucked with the machines. I don't know. I do a great Sidney Powell. But anyway. So that's a Sidney Powell one. Do you have a Pepsi or anywhere around here? I'm getting thirsty. Anyway, so that's that. But that's another story. And we'll probably have to talk about that too because of the fucking midterms. Because we'll have to talk about voting machines and I'm going to have to dispel all that stuff again. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to need some therapy after that. Because the trauma that is going to return for me having to think again about Mike Lindell and voting machines and anything else is absolutely going to drive me over the edge. This is like Black Mirror. They were getting $400,000 a month. Yeah, $400,000 a month from Tenet and Russia, but I don't know. Was that Russian propaganda? You mean I wasn't supposed to say that? Well, let me say it again. They didn't stop either because we had a stupid attorney general who didn't want to rock the boat. Rock the boat, don't rock the boat, baby. Rock the boat, don't tip the boat over. I think you gotta rock this boat. Rock the boat, go rock that boat, baby. Rock the boat, go tip that boat over. There. Fixed it. Okay, anyway, this is Pig's Breath saying, Mark Kelly is mean to us, so we're gonna strip him of everything he earned after years in the military and putting his life on the line. Because we're little pussies. We're pussies. Anyway, oh my God, I almost did that. Okay, wait, what am I doing? Oh, yeah, okay. Why do you even? Okay. All right, let's take a breath. Let me see. What else did I have on tap for today? I feel like I'm all of a sudden running into a wall of thought about what is next. I just feel like there's so much in my head right now. Like I really want to listen to the last little bit of Jack Smith. So there's part, but I'm not going to do it now because this is, then it's going to be, I don't even know what time it is. Jesus Christ. I've almost been going for 5 hours and nobody wants to listen to me for that long. I don't blame you. I don't want to listen to me for that long, frankly. So yeah, please practice good media literacy. Understand and understand that I'm coming at this from I don't give a shit. I don't belong to groups. So I would not belong to a group that had me as a member. So I don't belong to groups. Just make good decisions. Use media literacy. position things like, this is my opinion. I don't have any good citations on it. It's okay. It's okay to talk things out. I'm not against that. But what I am against is using a position on a stream to influence other people and what they think about a certain issue. And you end up with a lot of people who don't understand that Russia is the aggressor and could put their arms down immediately because they started this and they have a history of starting shit with Ukraine. And it's not right. It's not defensible. And the way that Russia has gone about it is also not defensible. They have kidnapped tens of thousands of Ukrainian children and put them up on adoption sites. And that's not just a rumor. That was an actual office within the White House that was tracking Ukrainian children, which the Trump administration shut down. So you can call it Trump derangement syndrome. You can call it anything you want. But I think the real Trump derangement syndrome is thinking that anyone as part of that regime has the best interests of you or me or them or the other person in mind, because they don't. You got scammed. And they put it out in writing in documents like Project 2025 and the Mar-a-Lago Accord and whatever the Manhattan Institute did. What was that? 79 days, 79-day plan, the memo from 2020 election that John Eastman, it's all out there. There's original documents for all of what I'm saying. And nothing is going to heal. This isn't about lefties deciding that they want to unite with righties. You're missing the point. The point is that we no longer have a shared reality. And in order to move forward, we're going to have to agree that there are some facts that can be shared, and that your truth may be different because you have a different lens that you're looking through. Your truth can be very subjective, but the facts are just the facts. It's like the Buddhists say, the rain isn't good or bad, it's just rain. So until we get to a point where there is an ability to actually listen to the facts and make your decision based on those facts, that's fine. Again, you can form an opinion based on facts that you see. But you can't just, it's a non-starter for me if people come and they're just like, well, I deny that. Oh, is that CNN? It doesn't matter what I say. I could tell you it's the fucking Heritage Foundation Project 2025 document, page 181. I could tell you specifically where to find whatever it is we're arguing about, and you still wouldn't believe me. Because you've been trained by this mind fucking that has been really ramped up in the last, 11 years. You've been really ramped up by Mike Flynn and his cohort, who actually did weaponize media and other information and messaging and how the internet radicalizes people. And then he did a tour about it. and he trained all these streamers. So, it's not your fault you fell for it, but at the same time, it's time to pull your head out of your ass and say, what have I been sold? And people are starting to do that, right? You're seeing all this stuff, but you're still not seeing the pictures of Trump with young girls. And guess what? I think that means that there's some pretty bad pictures out there. And he's pretty scared that they're going to come out, because his interest in this isn't to run the world. He doesn't give a shit about the world. Actually, he's really bothered that he has to go to all these events. His thing is he needs to stay out of prison and make a ton of money. That's the only two things the Trump family need to do right now. And if you do any research on what the Trump family has done to enrich themselves over these last 11 or 12 months, you'll see what I mean. But that's another show. Okay. All right. I'm going to leave you for today. Thank you so much for coming to Wake and Bake with Lolo. I'm Lolo. We're here every morning. We did change the time now. It's at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern, and we hit you with news. Tomorrow we do have some congressional shit to go through, so we'll have some hearings. Wednesday there's a big hearing on this on Minnesota. There's a hearing about the fraud in Minnesota, and we can have a conversation about that too. But that's another thing I hear people being ignorant on, is the fact that they don't understand the history of those investigations and everything that has happened and how complex that actually is. And bravo, I'm just going to say right now, bravo, Tim Waltz, because what you're doing is trying to take what is being made a distraction to try and demonize you and distract and detract from a very important gubernatorial race for the people of Minnesota. And what you're doing is being the adult and saying, you know what, I know how this goes. I know how this goes. This is a witch hunt. They say witch hunt, but they're really good at witch hunts. Mark Kelly as another example. So that's a witch hunt. Tim Waltz has been part of the investigations and trying, on top of them. Ilhan Omar has issued statements back when this began in 2018, when they started really investigating and making the arrests and finding the different entities that needed to be investigated, which again, very complex network, right? So Tim Waltz, thank you, because you know that right now it's just important to do the right thing for the people of Minnesota and not be the distraction and not be the drama. And that's unfortunate because I think he was a pretty good governor. Okay? I think he was a pretty good governor. And that's unfortunate for the people of Minnesota. But that's where we are now. Because of disinformation, this is where we are. So don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. Yeah, Klobuchar. Klobuchar is running for governor, which I think is a good idea. She's got good name recognition. I think they like her. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how I feel about her. She kind of disappoints me sometimes, and I think she's a little more conservative than I would like. But I also don't live in Minnesota, and I defer to my Minnesotans for their opinion on what matters in terms of who runs for that. But I think it's been established that Walz was actually a very good governor for that state and did a lot for social programs. Al Franken could run. I'm going to tell you, Al Franken should probably step back in this because I think he can really kind of just bring a good vibe, as well as very smart politicking. But anyway. Okay, enough of that. All right. Again, thank you so much for spending so much time. Sorry about the technical difficulties. We'll obviously try and... She's running against Lindell. Okay, never mind. Mike Lindell. But thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. I will see you tomorrow morning. And have a really great rest of your Monday, because it looks like, wow, everything's just kicking off. All right. Thank you so much. I'll see you later. Bye.